is up, everyone? Rick and BJ here for the When We Were Kids, a Time Capsule Toys podcast. Brought to you by, obviously, Time Capsule Toys and Monsters in the Toy Box, which is located in Warren, Ohio at 1795 Elm Road Northeast. And in case you're wondering, yes, Beaver Local is closed today.
100%. I mean, I think they closed last week when they saw the forecast.
Someone actually messaged me and told me about how hard they laughed that I mentioned Beaver Local. So
I clipped that and put it on YouTube. A lot of people watched it too. Like I vaguely, it's like the Ohio school that was closed all the time.
Like, oh, and there's rain. Beaver Local's closed. It's like, here's a crazy thing too. I actually saw on the news this morning. Today in 1994 was the coldest day in Youngstown history. It was like negative 20.
I remember
and they said with wind chill, it was negative 60.
I remember it being that cold then, and I remember walking outside for a minute and spitting in the air, and it just turned to snow immediately. It was like your spit froze in the middle of the air. I remember doing that.
Yeah, I woke up this morning, it was negative 11. And I'm like, oh my God. And I saw the news, and the news like, today was the coldest day in Youngstown history. I'm like, I don't remember that at all.
Yeah.
For good reasoning.
Yeah, no, I remember it being that cold back then, but yeah, it just very, very briefly, and it was nice to be off school. I remember being off school.
As always. So, it's been snowing here, kind of, not really. I mean, other parts of the world are snowing way worse than it is here. You, as a kid growing up, do you remember having a movie that you would watch? For some reason, you'd watch it on a snow day?
Oh, yeah. So we taped Ghostbusters off the TV as kids, and I remember I replayed that tape 100 times. Like, it was all warped by the time. And it still had the ads on it and stuff, so for like whatever failed sitcoms were from the 80s and mid-80s.
Did you fast forward to the commercials, or did you use those as pee breaks?
Yeah, pee breaks are like it's like some of them, but I remember like watching it again like when I was a little bit older, and yeah, just laughing at because there were a bunch of like sitcom ads on there that didn't take off. Like, it was like they were super short-lived sitcoms, whatever. There was nothing that was like a hit. You know what I mean?
No, I gotcha. Yeah, for me, I don't know why. I wrote down this so I didn't forget it. I think it's because the movie I wrote down was Airborne, which I don't know if you ever saw it.
Mm-mm.
It had I think his name was like Mitch. That was the kid's name of the movie. But it had Seth Green in it, and it had Jack Black in it. It was about this kid who moved from California. He was a surfer, moved to Cincinnati. And when he moved to Cincinnati, it was like snowing and crap. And like no one liked him because he was from California. And he like picked up like rollerblading, and then that's what the whole movie's about after that. But I would always watch that. I had it on VHS, so I used to watch it all the time whenever it would snow. And I'd get mad because I couldn't go out and rollerblade, so I'd have to go rollerblade in my basement. But I used to watch it all the time. And, it's such a... I don't want to say it's a good movie. But it's one of those, like, it just screams 90s.
Yeah.
So it's like people wearing those drug rugs, those stupid things, bowl cuts.
Oh, yeah.
People just looking like hippies. And I'll never forget Jack Black in it, because Jack Black, because I think, like I said, his name was like Mitch or something like that, and he would always call everyone bro, and Jack Black would always, in the movie, he'd always be like, did he just call you a piece of underwear? And he goes, he did it again. He just called you a piece of underwear. I don't know why. That was my go-to snow day movie. But another thing that we like to always talk about on here is video games. And obviously, when you don't have school, you're going to play video games. The last time we talked about video games we played on a snowy day or whatever. But was there a game that you particularly now that was obscure back then that you couldn't get your hands on? You have emulators, so now you can go play anything you want. Is there any obscure game from back then if you had today off and you're like, I'm gonna sit around and play video games in my pajama pants, what obscure game do you think you would go to?
I don't know about obscure. There were a bunch of games though that we didn't have because they were like the super popular ones or like super expensive. Usually when we got video games, it was when they were dropped down to like $10 or $20 or whatever.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then you buy one or whatever. I remember wanting. Yeah, I remember wanting Batman and not having because that Batman game is still pretty cool. That original Batman for NES. I remember not having
89
that.
Batman?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then I remember, was it Master Blaster? I didn't have that one. I remember wanting that one too. Like there were ones that were popular that my friends had and stuff that those were the ones that I would always want. You know what I mean? Would be stuck playing whatever cheapo garbage that we had.
Yeah. Well, the one cheapo garbage game I used to play on snowy days, I don't even remember what it was called. It was a motorcycle game, and it was for Sega Genesis. And I think it was made by Tenjin, maybe. But it was just like, it was like MotoGP, but it wasn't called MotoGP. It was called something else. I just don't remember. I just remember it was like at Ames, it was like $20. But like, that was like one of the ones I used to play as a kid. Now, if I had to choose a game to play that was kind of obscure that I never played before, I'd probably say, I don't even know. Probably Snow Brothers, because I never got to play it, and the game's like stupid expensive. And so I'd probably say Snow Brothers.
Yeah, I don't know
because it's snowy, and I think it's like the only game that really deals with snow. Besides Ski or Die.
Yeah.
And I ain't playing that.
Yeah, what games were? I'm trying to think what games dealt with snow for the NES. I got to think about this for a minute.
Like there's that like one world or level of Super Mario Brothers 3. Or 2. I can't remember.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of other ones that had that had. There was a Cliffhanger game I remember. I don't know if you were in the snow with it or if it necessarily highlighted it. Yeah, I can't think of games that,
all right,
that
that's
took
a
place in
good
snow.
thing. Why in the world do they make a Cliffhanger game?
Anything with Stallone got a game, I feel like. Just
Well, yeah, because they did Rambo. And they did Cliffhanger. They didn't do Tango and Cash.
No. Yeah, there's ones they didn't do, but yeah, like I feel like the Cliffhanger I remember being sort of like a big hype
They
kind
did
of blockbuster.
They did Judge Dredd for Super Nintendo.
And I don't know. I remember seeing Cliffhanger after the fact on when it came to TV. I don't remember because it was rated R. Like there was a bunch of a bunch of people got killed in that movie. I mean, just and typical entertaining Stallone movie and stuff. But yeah, I'm surprised that got an NES port. And if I recall, the game was pretty terrible.
Oh yeah,
like it wasn't good.
No, it was not good. I can't even think. I don't think any of the Stallone games were good. You had Rambo, which was kind of whatever. Obviously, Cliffhanger, which how you base a game off that is mind-boggling to me.
Was there a Rocky game for NES? I don't think they had a Rocky game for NES, did they?
I don't think so.
That's odd that they didn't. That's
They had Rocky though for Sega Master System.
Well, I remember there being some really horrible Rockies that came out after, like later on for later systems.
Yeah, they probably didn't do Rocky because they had Tyson's Punch Out and they had Punch Out, so I'm sure they skipped it for that.
Maybe, but yeah, that seems like one that would have lent itself. You know what I mean? I mean, with all he didn't fight a ton of people, but you figure by the time Rocky IV came out or whatever, you could have had Drago and Mr. T and Apollo and like even Spider Rico. I mean, I know they had
we called something stupid like Rocky Drago's Adventure.
Yeah, they would find a way to screw it up and not just make it a boxing game. Although, yeah, for NES, Mike Tyson's Punch Out was by far the best boxing game. I don't know that there was they would try to do other ones and it just
they did
was
Evander Holyfield's boxing for something. So. But yeah, Tyson's Punch Out was the go-to boxing game. So yeah, of course they weren't gonna put Rocky out when.
There were some horribly this could be another topic. There were some horribly licensed sports games for the NES too. Where
like Lee Trevino's fighting golf.
No, that one actually was good. Lee Trevino's fighting golf was good because I think they based it on a golf game that was already being developed that was actually good. But no, they did. There was an Arnold Palmer one. There was Jack Nicklaus ones. There was Jimmy Connor's tennis. There was they stuck athletes on stuff, and those games were
Bill Elliott's NASCAR.
Yeah, those games are usually awful.
That one just came into the shop. That's how I know. The regular just golf,
Yeah.
not good.
But that was was better than the regular golf wasn't very good, but it was actually better than the ones that got licenses or that they based off of. You know what I mean?
I'm not surprised. I mean, no one football wise, you couldn't touch Tecmo Bowl. Tecmo Bowl reigned supreme.
They had did John Elway had one of an NES game that was
Yes.
god awful, and there was one that was licensed. I think it was just NFL football that was terrible too. Like it was like unplayable so bad. Like
Yeah. Tecmo Bowl was always a good snowy day video game. But the best one ever was Madden 94. Madden 94, I was like the king. You couldn't beat me.
I remember playing Madden 94. My buddy had it and stuff, and we would play it all the time. And we would literally just try to hurt the opposing quarterback. We would just blitz every time and try to kill him.
Well, that's what you're supposed to do.
And yeah,
I was always the Cowboys because I was always if I got Emmitt Smith, I did the most ridiculous thing ever. I would take the ball. I would run all the way back, just have him chase me, and I just run down the sideline. I get like a touchdown like every time. And then Troy Aikman was like unstoppable, and you had Michael Irvin. And
I remember Madden 94, so I remember like you could get hurt. That was like there was injuries in that game. Like your players could get hurt and stuff. But I remember we were playing as the Browns, I think, one time, and when Michael Jackson was a receiver for the Browns, and like you could do like showboat and do like spin around. So as you're running into the end zone, you're spinning and you're like and he fell at like the 3-yard line and he like I don't know, it was like he ruptured his Achilles or whatever. He was out for the season.
Oh my god!
For showboating trying to go into the end zone.
Speaking of Michael Jackson's Moonwalker.
That was brutal. Yeah,
You just kicked and like sparkles would come out of your shoes,
you chuck your hat
and you go hee hee. And it was all because I don't know what the point of the game was. You were saving children, right?
I think so. And then every once in a while there'd be dance breaks every once in a while.
That really set the tone for him and the future of him with him saving children.
Right, yeah, right. That's the kids need a superhero.
A little bit of foreshadowing there.
Yeah, the kids need a superhero. Might as well be Michael Jackson.
Yeah. Did you ever play I don't know why this first popped in my head. Did you ever play the Home Alone game?
Not at the time. After the fact, and I saw how bad it was on people reviewing it online and stuff like that too. Where like he ran around and like he fought like vacuum cleaners and like household objects and shit.
So basically, all it was Wayne's World.
Yeah. That was brutal too. Yeah.
Oh my god, that's stupid.
There was a Full House game too. You remember that was similar?
No.
That, like you were.
No, I don't. Wait. Why?
I think you played as Michelle, and again, you just like fought like Dustbusters and like lamps and.
Why was there a Full House game?
I'm pretty sure there was a Full House video. Yeah, that was god. That might have been for Super Nintendo. I don't think they got an NES.
I know they did a Home Improvement game.
Oh yeah, they did do a Home Improvement game. Yeah,
which I never played. I think it's for Super Nintendo.
Yeah, I think so too.
I never really got to play a whole lot of Super Nintendo stuff because I didn't have one. Our neighbors had it, but from working the shops and stuff like that, you always see stupid games. Like Home Improvement was one of them. I'm like, who asked for this?
And it was pretty ambitious to base like games around some of the sitcoms. Like, okay, how do you make a game out of this? And they just would force it, whatever goofy way.
Yeah,
had nothing to do with anything. You know what I mean? That like, why are you fighting random objects? Is just always what it turned into.
And to me, that makes no sense because basically they would try to pump out games for like whatever they could. But then they also did this. This just popped in my head over the weekend because I went to an indoor flea market and found these. I didn't buy them though. They also try to pump out cards for everything. They had cards for all my children.
Just because that's what all the kids want to collect is all my children cards.
Why would you have? Who's buying them? And I'm like, my buddy was like, "Oh my god, look, they have all my children cards." I'm like, "Why?"
Yeah, there's got to be some.
Where's the As the World Turns cards?
There's got to be some other really. I mean, there's a lot of weird card sets out there.
The 227 cards.
Yeah, were there 90210 cards, or had to have been.
There had to have been.
Like Melrose, like all those.
There had to have been 90210. There had to have been.
Yeah,
Now I'll be on the hunt to see if there was.
Yeah, I'm sure there was.
I need that Kelly rookie card.
There was All in the Family at 90210 is.
For God's sake, for All in the Family, they released that. A lot of people don't know this. Whatever the baby was from the show.
Oh, I remember that stupid, that weird baby. Like,
yeah, that was the only toy they released from the show was that baby.
It was like the nude baby, whatever. And it was, yeah, we did a business spotlight on an antique place, and they had that there, and I'm like, what's this weird? They made this? Like, this exists? Like, why did they make this?
It's so dumb and creepy. The fact that you have the baby from All in the Family, I don't.
That was the only toy they made was the baby. They didn't make Archie. They didn't make just the bear's the baby.
No one wants this. People like baby dolls. We'll do it All in the Family baby. Dumb. Much like how they make freaking All My Children cards.
Yeah, I don't know who the hell is collecting those.
I want to meet the person who collects them and has them.
Oh, somebody's got that full set out there, like a mint set somewhere.
This is a Gem Mint 10. Dorothy, or I don't know anyone on the show. I said Dorothy because it's like an old person name I can think of. But speaking of Dorothy, like, why didn't they make freaking Golden Girls cards then?
They didn't make Golden Girls cards?
I know they should have.
I don't think the kids were really watching the Golden Girls too much back then, though. Like, that was a popular show, but I don't know that, like, kids were necessarily into it.
Oh, yeah. But
like
kids weren't into All My Children.
Well, that's true, too. Were there Golden Girls toys at all? Did they merchandise Golden Girls at all back then? I'm sure they have after the fact. But
back then, no. Now, yes.
Yeah.
And they were like San Diego Comic-Con exclusives. So now they are crazy money. But, yeah. So you brought some things for show and tell today.
Yeah, so we're going to
like show and tell here.
We're going to do what they tried to sell us back in the day. So we're going to take a look at some old comic books, and just to see some of the ads in here and
they still make Stridex?
Yeah. So yeah, they assumed we all had acne. So there's Stridex.
I used to use these, but not Stridex. What the hell were the other ones called?
Oh, didn't it begin with an O?
Yeah, I can't remember.
Goxy something.
It's Oxy something. But yeah, that's what I had.
Yeah. I don't think we ever had used the. I didn't have acne really. That wasn't really a problem for me.
I had terrible acne.
That was
really
awful. Yeah, it wasn't really a problem for me, so we didn't use much of that. But yeah, some of the random stuff.
Is Leslie Nielsen still alive?
I don't think so.
Oh, all right. Well, Naked Gun 33 and third, the final insult.
So we got here. There's a TurboGrafx 16 ad.
I wanted one of those so goddamn bad.
I had it. This is from January '88, so yeah.
I wanted one so bad, but.
And then, here we go. Then right in behind it is WrestleMania for Nintendo and the WrestleMania VCR board game.
Yeah, we talked about the VCR board game before, and like, I don't know anyone who's ever played it.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know anyone who's ever played that either. But I had the WrestleMania game, which isn't great, but gets beat up on probably a little more than it should for the time. You know, the time it came out. Every time I see people review it, though, they never know how to play it. So they're like, "Oh, it sucks." It's like, well, you gotta like kind of have some semblance of how to play it, but
free music video of your choice. You can get rock video, country video. No, those are your only options: rock video or country video.
Here's one for Mega Man 2 and Strider from Capcom.
I've never played Strider, and I've tried to play a lot of the Mega Man games, and I am incredibly terrible at them.
I never had the Mega Man. We never had the Mega Man games growing up, and I don't even know the friends did either. Like that was a line that we just didn't, you know.
All right, the free music videos. I am going to go through these country artists.
All right.
I've heard of one. Susie Bogus.
No idea.
Carlene Carter.
Nope.
Andy Childs. Diamond Rio.
Diamond Rio I've heard of.
Joey Diffie. McBride and the Ride. Mariah McKee. Here's the one I heard of. John Michael Montgomery.
Yeah.
Leroy Parnell. And the last one's my favorite. Pirates of the Mississippi.
So, what's the free music video? Like, what do you have to buy to get the free VHS tape or whatever that is?
I don't even know. 10 hot new music videos.
Or is that like a BMG or Columbia House thing, but just for?
Oh, you get monthly videos, 4 times a year.
Oh boy, how many kids are picking?
I have no obligation to buy anything ever and can cancel anytime I want.
Yeah, how many kids are? None of my friends were into country music back then. It's certainly not Diamond, certainly not Diamond Rio.
50% instant welcome bonus. You can either get alternative rock, heavy metal, rap, or country. Alternative rock includes Spin Doctors, Concrete Blonde, plus 8 more.
Right.
Heavy metal, Butthole Surfers, which is not heavy metal at all,
No.
or some band called Mantisa.
I've never heard of Mantisa either.
And then, or you can get pop, Bobby Brown with Whitney Houston, and Vogue, Expose, Melissa Etheridge, The Bee Gees, Deborah Harry, George Michael, Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, Tears for Fears, or Jody Watley.
Huh.
Well, let me see. Tom Petty is not pop.
No.
I don't even consider Deborah Harry pop or Tears for Fears.
How? Here's an ad for Quick Shot Joysticks by Bondwell, one of the 70,000 NES accessories where they
didn't work.
New controllers, whatever. Here, try this new controller. Like,
But guess what we got here? X-Men, the juiciest offer in history.
Is it X-Men High C? Nice.
I need a High C box for Apocalypse and Sauron, please.
Here's the Dungeon board game, which I'm guessing is a ripoff of Dungeons and Dragons.
I have had that in the shop before, and I cannot tell you anything about it other than I had it.
A romp'em stomp'em roaring good time of monster bashing, dungeon crawling, and treasure collecting. Dungeon board game.
And I can
1989.
tell you in this comic, Fleer paid a lot of money to advertise in here. Like, literally, there's more Fleer advertisements than anything. This place is still freaking open.
Mile High Comics?
Yeah.
I remember those ads because they were in every comic that you had back then, and they would show
Still
pictures of the
open.
store. I think. Here's one for Bionic Commando, which I never had Bionic Commando.
I never did either, but I played it a couple years ago, and it's not good. Literally at all.
Oh, here we go. Talking about, I know you've talked about food on the podcast before from stuff. So Ninja Turtle cereal ad.
Is that like Chex with turtle marshmallows?
I think it is. Crunchy, sweet. They call them Ninja Nets.
Oh my god. 'Cause those are the ones that used to come with cereal bowls. The cereal bowls would be in with them.
Ah, gotcha.
Mine had not very good advertisements.
Well, here's another one.
Operation Wolf stunk.
Oh, we got another. I haven't even showed it yet.
I
Operation
hated that
Wolf.
game.
Yeah.
Hated it. Because when you got it for Nintendo, you thought it was going to be like the arcade.
Oh, yeah, I
And
do remember that being
The
different.
arcade
yeah.
was so much more fun because I think the arcade you had like an Uzi. And I hated it because I'm like, this isn't like the arcade game. Because I used to play the arcade game at the Cortland Roller Rink.
Here's another one that this game was impossible. I had this game actually. Remember Sky Shark?
I never played it.
So it was basically just a, you were just in a plane going over stuff and tanks and everything was trying to blow you up, whatever. It was impossible. It was impossible. There was so much crap coming at you all the time. Like, I think I might have got past the first level once. Like, and then you get this, like, there was so much shit coming at you, you just died. And like, and it was like, I think you only had 3 lives. You hit once, you blew up. It was like, there was no, yeah, it was
We're going to have to get more comics.
so
Do this every episode.
Yeah.
Because I like this.
I've got a zillion more. So yeah, I just grabbed it.
X-Men Alert, the adventure game. I don't think we've ever had this come in. This says also look for X-Men Deck the Mutants. So,
Yeah, I never I didn't realize that game existed.
Yeah, we had an X-Men game coming to the shop before, but I don't think it was that one. In fact, I know it wasn't that one. Man, Upper Deck. It's a battle between Upper Deck cards and whoever the else was in it.
Fleer was the other
Fleer,
one. Yeah,
that was the other one.
Oh, Upper Deck. I remember that being everywhere.
I don't
when
even
that came
remember
out.
these ones called Fun Packs.
That was probably I was probably done collecting baseball cards by then.
It had to have been 90s, right? Yeah, 90s, because they made them all the purples, the pinks, the yellows.
Yeah, I think I was done collecting baseball cards probably early 90s, 93, 94 was probably the last gasp.
Skybox coming in July. Milestone. The Dakota Universe. Trading cards from Skybox. Get ready to experience a milestone. Never in my life have I ever heard of this.
No, are those comic book characters with Skybox cards? Is that what that is?
Yeah, Hardware, Icon, and Rocket. Yeah,
I remember Skybox.
Milestone. That was the name of the comic.
I remember Skybox basketball cards being like a hot thing when it first came out.
Yeah.
But I don't remember any other stuff that they did besides the basketball cards.
Oh, here's a good one. Gear Up. So this was for Game Gear. Something I wanted so bad as a kid, and of course I don't get it because I get told you have a Game Boy.
Yeah.
Well, Game Gear has color. God damn it.
Yeah, I didn't get Game Gear either.
WrestleMania Steel Cage Challenge, which I've never played.
That's the word. That was the worst game
Spider-Man Return
ever.
of the Sinister Six, which I've never played. And then Terminator 2, once again, a rated R movie that they turned into a video game.
Steel Cage Challenge I had for Nintendo and was the worst wrestling game. One of the worst games, like unplayable game, like just god awful. It was slow, it was clunky, I remember getting that, being so excited, and all the rest. I mean, just about all the wrestling games. Any of the sort of licensed ones were terrible. If it wasn't like tag team wrestling or pro wrestling, it was pretty terrible for the NES.
The Terminator game looks like a normal side scroller.
Mm.
I never played Return of the Sinister Six, but it looks like it could be fun. It looks like a very dumbed down version of X-Men.
Yeah.
Stridex.
Yeah, they just assumed everybody had acne back then.
Yeah, when you take out a whole ad and make it Zit Fighters from Outer Space.
Well, you got to make it, well, the other one was just
just literally the back.
The other one was just the pads themselves. Like, oh, here you go to the drugstore and get yourself some Stridex. At least that one's got a theme to it.
What you're reading, Dex? X-Men custom comic, Major. Where'd you get it? From the makers of Stridex. Wow.
Yeah, as everybody wants to, buy a Zit Fighters comic.
What a great tagline. Stridex, because you only get one face. Someone's going to go watch this and go start buying Stridex stuff now.
They still sell Stridex?
I don't even think so. I don't even think they sell the other ones that start with an O.
Like, can you buy Stridex merch, like, years after the fact that they have, like, shirts and stuff or whatever?
I'm going to get a bunch of messages now saying, I'm looking up Stridex now because of you. I've never heard of this game. Hit the Streets Fighting. Konami presents Raging Fighter.
Oh, boy, just a random generic beat 'em up probably
They're
for
like, hey,
Game Boy.
we're going to make the guy look like Steven Seagal.
Yeah, pretty much. Oh, I'm sure that was terrible. A lot of the Game Boy games, when they would port them, were awful because they had to shrink them down, or they had to fit the technology. It was like, oh, yeah, I remember some of those Game Boy games just being like, oh, my God, this is, borderline unplayable.
It looks like a poor man's Mortal Kombat. That's what it looks like.
Yeah, there was a bunch of those. I think didn't they have Mortal Kombat for Game Boy? Yeah, I remember the further you went down the system, the worse it got.
I think I had it for Game Boy.
Well, they had it for Tiger Electronics too.
Oh yeah,
I'm sure that was realistic.
The Megaverse of Rifts, available at hobby stores and comic shops everywhere. there was this thing called Rifts that looked like a ripoff of. I'm guessing it was. It's a role playing game. So basically, Rifts was a role playing game that was a terrible ripoff, I guess, of Terminator. Then they had Robotech, and then Heroes Unlimited. But that's why I say it looked like a terrible ripoff of Terminator.
And look at that ad. That even like gosh, yeah, I'm not. That just looks rough. Who designed the ad? There's like no. There's not even like
nothing. It's just a bunch of.
It's like here's some
black-faced robots.
Here's some robots in redefined print.
We're in the back, so we should begin hopefully get some more sweet Stridex ads.
There'll be something else that somebody paid primo spot for inside cover, or it might just be an ad for.
It's an ad for more comics.
Yeah.
And then there's what comic place is this? Oh, it doesn't say. Marvel Superheroes board game, which I did not know existed. Made by Pressman.
Huh.
And
well, that one's got to walk in your door at some point, doesn't it?
you think, well, look, there's that ad. Like, oh, we got to pay to advertise it again.
Yeah, just double it up.
That's more Stridex ads. We need one that has the other ad that has the what's it called in it? The other zit cleaning thing. I keep wanting to call it OxyClean, but it's not OxyClean.
Yeah, was it just Oxy pads? Was it just Oxy?
It might have been just Oxy.
I think it was just Oxy, maybe. Yeah, no, I'll bring in more comics from this era and maybe a little bit earlier, just to see what the hell they were trying to sell us back in the day.
I remember back in the day when you it was like stupid like disguise kits or like water guns and stupid crap like that.
Yeah, there was always the chintzy toys like the X-ray glasses and just the total nonsense. It was like, oh, send $2 and this many proof of purchases to whatever. Yeah.
You talked about WrestleMania Steel Cage match being the worst game. Or the worst wrestling game, I should say.
Yeah, I think that was the worst which is hard to do because there were some terrible ones there, but that one was awful. It was unplayable.
Do you have a wrestling match that sticks out to you in your head as possibly the worst match you've ever seen growing up?
Oh gosh.
I thought about this last night because I knew we were talking about wrestling.
Let me think about this.
And I have mine's from like the Attitude Era. It was hands down the worst match I've ever seen. And then the one tag team just disappeared afterwards.
Who was it?
It was Undertaker and Kane versus Chronic.
Chronic. I don't
it was Bryan Adams and whoever the other guy was. I could still remember sitting in my friend's like family room watching it and us just going, this match is so terrible. Like, there were so many botches in it. Like, nothing went right. Chronic looked terrible. And they hyped it up big time. And it was so bad. And then that was a Sunday night because it was a pay-per-view. The next night on Raw, they never spoke of Chronic again. Mm-hmm. And Chronic just, like, disappeared. Because it was so awful.
I think anything that had Zeus in it was just atrocious. It was like, oh my god! Like even as a kid, it's like, all right, like this isn't. They just got this big dude with Tiny Lister. Was that his real name? Just in there, like you know what I mean. Like he couldn't do nothing. He just yelled and he would walk around like a robot, whatever. But yeah, anything with Zeus was just absolutely awful.
So does that mean you will not be buying the Zeus retro Hasbro?
No, probably
that's coming
not.
out.
No,
because they're also doing a Rip one.
Yeah, they're doing a whole No Holds Barred one. I looked it up to see if they did toys at the time, and they didn't do toys at No Holds Barred at the time, which I can't believe Vince McMahon didn't try to license that or whatever. I know the movie was a bomb, but like...
I mean, Over the Top was a bomb, and they put out toys for that.
Yeah.
Which, Over the Top is another one of those movies I'm going to have to cover. We're doing a new segment here. I informed BJ that we're going to be doing a segment where I watch a movie that had a toy, for some reason, had a toy line based after. I have so many to watch, and you'll all probably be very intrigued that there's toys to certain ones. But the other night, I sat down and was like, that's when I got the idea for it. And I watched Waterworld. I said, and BJ goes, "What kind of topics do you want to cover?" I go, "We're going to talk about Waterworld." He's like, "Why?" I'm like, "They did toys for it." He goes, "Why?"
I remember when that movie came out because there was all this hype around it because it was the most expensive movie ever made at the time. And then I remember watching it, and it was being like, "This movie's." It was stupid. I remember the whole time. My whole impression of it was, I just wanted to kill the little girl in it. Like, she was just obnoxious and it was annoying. And that girl ended up being in. She was in a couple other things back then, but then she ended up being in Napoleon Dynamite. She was Deb from Napoleon Dynamite.
Holy crap! I didn't know that.
So that little girl, like, but yeah, I just remember the whole time. It's like, all right, it's this obnoxious little girl, and then Kevin Costner's a fish. Like, he's got gills behind his ears. Like, it's the dumbest shit.
And webbed
like,
toes.
It was, yeah, all this big production, all this money they put into it. Like, and that was one. Obviously, they did a toy line for it.
Yeah, they
did
did
a lot
a
of
toy line,
plans for
which
this
is
thing, and they just did
which
not
is
work
crazy to
out.
me. Okay, so they did a figure of Dennis Hopper, Kevin Costner. They did a couple figures of, I think it was only like 2 of them on jet skis.
Mm.
They did a couple other people from the movie, just as action figures. It was made by Kenner, so you know damn well that they just reused pieces of Robin Hood figures.
Yeah.
Which Robin Hood's one of the ones I'll be covering at some point in time. Because Robin Hood stole a ton of stuff from Star Wars for the toy lines. So you know that damn well that they took a ton of stuff from Robin Hood and used it for Waterworld because Kevin Costner.
Yeah.
But they did his boat, the Trimarian, which, watching it for the first time since I was a kid, I loved Waterworld growing up. I thought it was awesome. It's Mad Max on water. That's what it is. Mm-hmm. But watching it, I had so many questions. Like, how the hell are they dirty?
That is true. Everybody's dirty as hell.
Like, you're on water. Water's splashing up. Like, should the dirt come off?
Yeah, I forgot about that. Why everybody was so dirty. Well, weren't the Dennis Hopper and all the pirates or whatever the hell they were? Wasn't there they had that big square boat thing that went around?
Yeah, it was like a huge oil tanker thing. And but in the bottom of it, he would drive around in a car, and for some reason, don't ask me why. I still don't understand why they did this. He would they'd have parades and crap on this thing. And instead of throwing out candy like you would at a parade, he was throwing out cigarettes.
Yeah, that's side.
So I'm like, where are they growing tobacco leaves? Because you're all fighting over a jar of dirt and wanting to know where to find the land.
Yeah.
That's mysterious and all that crap. But yeah, they did toys for that movie. But when they blew up his boat, I'm thinking in my head, this is like Boba Fett all over again.
Yeah, right.
You give him a ship, or is it Mandalorian? That's what it was. It's like Mandalorian. You give him a ship, you release it, and everyone's like, "Oh God, I got the ship." Then you blow the stupid thing up, and then it's like, "What's the point of me having it now? Because you just blew it up."
I remember, wasn't there a scene there where Kevin Costner uses himself as bait for a big giant fish? And then the fish swallows him, and he blows up the fish from inside the fish.
Yeah, and they eat it.
Yeah, yeah, in that. And then I remember the woman in that, it was supposed to be the sex object, whatever, and her just being ugly as hell. I was like, what?
She was very ugly, and I'm glad I'm not the only one who thought that. Because I'm watching it, I'm like, she is not attractive.
Yeah,
you're really trying to make her. But yeah, it was the most expensive movie ever made at that point in time, and I was like, how? So of course I had to start deep diving into this to figure out why. The shit kept sinking.
Oh, yeah.
They said they'd show up sometimes to film, and whatever boat they made or whatever, it sank. So that was a constant problem they had on set, was the set was sinking. Yeah. And it was they filmed it right outside of the major island of Hawaii, I guess. Mm. But yeah. That's why it cost so much money, because the crap kept sinking. And I guess they wanted to do a Waterworld 2, and Kevin Costner told him, I guess they already had a sequel planned before the movie came out.
Yeah, they thought this movie was just going to be the greatest thing ever.
Costner said no, he wasn't going to do a sequel.
Yeah, Why would you? It's like, oh, this is a pain in the ass. No one watched it.
I loved it. It was always on HBO, and I watched it constantly.
I really thought that movie was going to be way bigger
It's
than
actually.
it was.
When was the last time you watched it?
Oh, it's probably been at least 10 years.
You got to rewatch it. It's honestly not that bad. It's really not. The Kevin Costner's not good in it, literally at all. The little girl's still annoying. That woman is still ugly as all hell. Dennis Hopper in that movie's awesome.
Well, I remember Dennis Hopper being like sort of the lone character, bright spot out of that. But yeah, I just remember being like,
one of my favorite parts is when they gave him a fake eye.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And they're like, "Oh, it looks good, looks great." The one guy's like, "It looks like shit." He goes, "It does look like shit," and it falls off his head. Oh my god, that was like my favorite part of the whole stupid movie.
Yeah, wasn't dry land Mount Everest or whatever?
I don't even remember.
Like I think it was like the top of Mount Everest was what survived or what wasn't underwater anymore.
At the beginning of the movie, they tell you it's all about the polar ice caps melting and all that stuff. So, but like I said, I have so many questions still about that movie. Like, how are they all dirty? How do they make all these boats if there's no land?
It's true. What does anybody ever bring in the toys? Have you ever bought any of the toys?
I haven't bought any of them in forever. But after watching it, I'm like, man, I really want to buy some of these toys.
Are they out there? They are. Are they going for money?
Now they are, yes.
Are they
it's stupid. It's like the ones with the jet skis are like $35 a piece. Mm. The boat is like, I don't know, like $80 to $100. But like I said, there's other movies out there that you will be shocked have toys. Mm. I ordered one specifically so I can show it off. I'm going to hide it so you can't see it when I bring it in. And you'll be baffled why the hell they made toys for this movie. But I've never seen the movie before. So I have to track it down to see how I can watch it. There's a bunch of them like that. Like the one I'm like, oh man, Dennis Hopper's great in this movie. I'm like, oh God, you know what I have to watch now? The Super Mario Brothers movie.
Oh, I forgot he was in that.
Yeah, he played King Koopa.
Yeah, I forgot he was in that. That movie was not another one that I remember got a whole bunch of hype, and it was like, oh, this is.
So I'll be watching that. I'll give you tidbits of the other movies I'll probably be watching. Judge Dredd, because they did toys for that. Demolition Man that I always talk about. They did toys for that. Do they have a Demolition Man game?
Maybe, probably. I feel like they would have.
But yeah, so I'm gonna be watching a ton of probably really bad movies that had toy lines. Mm. And BJ will ask me what's wrong with me. Yeah. And if I have to, if I'm mentally sane. Can you think of a movie that you're shocked that has a toy line that I should watch?
I was shocked that Police Academy had toys. Like that one was like, because I remember Police Academy. I remember watching it like younger because they had the reruns on all the time. But like I was like, was this big enough to get really a toy line necessarily?
They had 6 movies?
Yeah, they had a bunch of them.
I will not be watching all 6.
So that one, I was sort of surprised. The other one, I was surprised that it had a toy line. I get why now, because it's become such a cult classic sort of thing. But it was an R-rated movie. Like Predator had toys, and which was shocking.
I just talked to somebody about that, which is crazy because in the original Predator movie, there was only one Predator. Mm. And what Predator 2? Well, Predator 2 is just awful.
Yeah, there were a bunch of Predators in Predator. Yeah, but
and that's why I think that's when they started releasing the toys. But then again, too, another movie that had Alien. Mm. I'm sorry, I'm gonna piss everyone off with this. I hate Alien.
I was never a fan of that.
I thought it was so boring.
Yeah, I never really cared about Alien.
Aliens, boring. Mm-mm. But they made a bunch of Alien toys.
Yeah, out of the R-rated movies. But yeah, that was surprising to me. It's like who? Because yeah, I mean, you saw that movie, but like Predator and Predator 2, you didn't see it when it came out as a kid necessarily, really, unless you snuck into the theater or had somebody else take you to see it, whatever, because they were R-rated and it was all, you know what I mean? Everybody's getting blown up. There was gore galore in both of them. So it was like, you know, I remember seeing, when I saw Predator for the first time, and yeah, I think one of the first people that dies is Jesse Ventura gets his arm blown off or whatever, and then he gets Jesse Ventura gets the big thing blows through his chest. And then what's his name? Apollo Creed gets his
Yeah.
arm. What was his name in that? Dylan.
Oh, wow, remember.
Yeah, I think it was. But yeah, where he gets his arm blown off, whatever.
He
It
ain't
was
got
like,
no
this is
time
gory.
to bleed.
Yeah.
Friggin' first time I ever watched Predator, it's one of those weird things I remember. I was in the living room. We lived in Southington. My dad really wanted to watch it. They got it on VHS, and I was under my sleeping bag through the whole movie because I was like terrified.
That might have been yeah, I probably saw that at first as a rental or something like that my dad got or whatever. Is Schwarzenegger's in it, we'll watch it, whatever. But I'm guessing that would probably have been the first way I would have saw it because I just do remember it being. I saw that I didn't see like an edited version or whatever when the first one because I remember all the gore and everybody getting blown up and everything else
Yeah,
and him killing everybody.
To me, it's just crazy that they released a toy line for Predator because they just released like a bunch of Predators, like Lava Predator.
Yeah, they were like goofy. Yeah, it was like there's only one Predator. You figure you'd have like the dudes in the army or whatever over there. They would do a figure for all them, but you'd figure it to be like one big Predator.
I just
not
remembered
multiple
another
ones.
movie I have to watch that had a toy line. Commando.
Oh, Commando had a toy line.
And it had a video game.
I haven't
Also, Predator had a video game.
Yeah.
You should be in charge of playing the video games as I watch the terrible movies.
What was the Predator video game though? I remember they had it. I don't remember what it was though. I'm gonna see what it was.
It was for all I know. It was for Nintendo, and it had Schwarzenegger on it.
Yeah. I'll have to fire up the emulator and see what that's all about.
I forgot.
It's probably terrible.
Completely that it had. Like, oh my god, I cannot imagine how bad that game is.
It's probably not good. Most of the Schwarzenegger.
Another game
Stallone, anything based off of them were terrible.
I like how it comes back to games again. They had a game for Nintendo of Total Recall.
Yeah.
No toys though, because you can't. They probably didn't want to release a 3-boobied woman.
Right. Yeah, I do remember them having a game for that.
It's like kids get like they have there's a set like X-Men accessory kits where you can be Wolverine or Cyclops or whatever. Imagine like kids get your own Total Recall accessory kit. You could have Quate attached to your stomach.
Yeah.
And you could push a button, he would just talk. Quate.
So no Total Recall toys, but yeah, I do remember there being a total. Yeah, any Schwarzenegger video games were generally terrible. Stallone video games were terrible. Anything action movie based was just like they did a game for it. It was like, oh, this is awful. Or they blew it out. There was a Jaws video game. It was awful too. You just walk. It was boring as hell. You just went
That game is so hard.
It just took you forever. Like you just like you had to like. I got the concept real fast. I was like, okay, I got to collect like a zillion different things, but it just took forever. And it was so boring. It was just
And it just popped in my head. I'm going to correct myself right now so no one comments or messages me telling me that I screwed up. The thing that was attached to the dude's stomach was not Quaid. Quaid was... The thing that attached, his name was what? Like Quado or something like that?
I only ever saw Total Recall once.
I think that was Quado. And then the bad guy was Quaid. And because Schwarzenegger yelled at him and said... No, wait. Maybe the bad guy's name was Cohagen. He said, Cohagen, give the people air. Because then I think Schwarzenegger was Quaid. So Quado was the thing on the stomach. I'm almost positive. Because I got to say that now because I'm getting 9,000 messages complaining I screwed it up.
Yeah, I'm no help to that one. I've only ever saw that once, and it was way back in that day. I'd be like, this is weird.
There's a point in time in my life where I watched it like once a week. And I'm just like...
Yeah, no, I remember it was too weird for me the first time. I was like, I don't like this. Like when he pulls the thing out of his nose, whatever. I'm like,
he's just like, ah!
It's like, I'm good on this.
How did they never make toys for Universal Soldier?
I never saw that one either.
I watched it for the first time like a year ago. I didn't like it, but I could see why people liked it because it's Van Damme. Two, it's like futuristic, and it has what's his face in it.
Did Van Damme ever get a toy line for any of his movies?
No.
That's weird. That's surprising.
No Bloodsport.
Well,
no Double Impact.
Bloodsport. What? Kickboxer was the other one.
Kickboxer. No Surrender.
Yeah. So Van.
What else did he do? You want toy line? They should have made a toy line for the Expendables.
You probably should have. Yeah. I'm honestly. Yeah, I'm surprised Van Damme didn't get action movie stars that didn't get any kind of toy line at all. I can't believe Van Damme didn't go under. I'm sure there's retro ones for Bloodsport or
And
whatever.
Van Damme was damn Predator.
Yeah, he was. He quit, didn't he? Because they wouldn't show his face on screen.
Yes.
It's like, dude, no, you're a monster. You can't run showing your face. Like,
Yeah, he quit.
that movie would have a
Mad.
whole different feel to it if Van Damme's face was in the middle of the Predator thing. Like he opens his mouth and there's Van Damme's face.
You know what movie should have had toy line? They did like a spoof of it for The Simpsons for a Treehouse of Horrors, but Island of Dr. Moreau.
Mm-hmm.
I understand the movie is terrible. I love it. I don't care. I used to watch it all the time. They made a documentary about it, about how jacked up the filming was, and how like, what's his name? Who played Batman? Val Kilmer. Val Kilmer told them he would only do it if they gave him like this ridiculous amount of money, expecting them to say no. And they said, okay, we'll do it. And what's his face? Oh, my God. From Godfather. Oh, my God. I can't remember his name. Big fat guy. Marlon Brando. They said he refused to learn his lines or read the script, so they had to have an earpiece so they'd feed him his lines. And they said it was so hot during filming, he asked him if he could wear this hat, and they would put ice on his head to keep him cool. Like, this documentary tells you all this stuff, and it was like they fired the director. The director, like, he built, like, over 3 or 4 months, built, like, this village for them to live in. For like the filming of the movie, it was like that's where the monsters would live. He built it all. They fired him. Dude drove him to the airport because they fired him. And the dude didn't wait for him to get on a plane. Dude went back to the set. The guy left the airport and stuck onto set. And he's actually in the movie as one of the monsters. And they told Fairuza Balk that like she was never going to work in Hollywood ever again because she refused to agree to something. And like the movie is just like a. The movie itself is so bad it's good, but when you watch a documentary, you're just like, oh, holy shit, this movie is so jacked. Like everything that happened behind the scenes was insane. Like it was like that documentary should have been the movie, and like they didn't release it until many years later. But it's so funny to watch, like hear everyone talk about how much of a train wreck the movie was. But that movie needed toys. So bad. I mean, you put toys out for freaking Predator. Why couldn't we get a Marlon Brando action figure?
What other horror movies did they do toys? I mean, they didn't do Friday the 13th toys. They didn't do Freddy toys back then, did they?
No. They didn't. That stuff didn't really come out until like the mid 90s through Movie Maniacs. Because they did the thing through Movie Maniacs. I mean, they did like a talking. Actually, I lied. They did a talking Freddy doll. In like the 80s, LJN did a Freddy, but it was like hard rubber like LJN's, and it came out card back. And they did like squirt balls of Freddy and Jason. I'm trying to think what else. Michael Myers they really didn't do anything with until Movie Maniacs.
Did they do Goonies toys or
no? We
Gremlins
talked
toys?
about that. The Gremlins they did do. They never did Goonies.
That's surprising they didn't do Goonies because I mean that's a made for kids movie too, and like all the different characters you could do, and obviously Sloth, and
then you could
know what I
have
mean?
like the play set.
You could have the mom and the
Mama
cronies
Fratelli.
and yeah.
They should have had her. They should have made a Mama Fratelli with talking action, where she says, "It's wet, drink it."
Yeah. Yeah, she definitely needed a string to pull it up where she
A
talked.
pull string Mama Fratelli. Man, look how we're coming up with all these golden ideas. We should be rich by now.
Well, I'm sure I'm sure there's retros of all this stuff. You know,
I want a pull string Mama Fratelli.
I think I'm gonna buy. I saw they made a retro of because I like the Friday the 13th video game. I know they made a retro of Jason in the purple outfit.
Oh yeah, NECA did.
I think I'm going to buy one of those.
His purple tracksuit.
Yeah, it'll be another Another thing is adding to my ever-growing toy collection. That, and I'll probably buy Friday the 13th. I'll probably buy a box Friday the 13th NES game, too. Might as well add that one, too. Let's get a box version of all
Maybe
of
you'll find it at Toy-Hio. Toy-Hio, February 8th. Get your tickets right now on Eventbrite. Oh, speaking of Toy-Hio, Luchasaurus, Danhausen, Julia Hart, and Harley Cameron. All for Toy-Hio. Woo! And hopefully I'll be able, on day of Toy-Hio, I'll be able to announce the store signing. I don't know, because I'm still waiting for confirmation. That's on a Sunday. And I have to wait for confirmation for a Sunday.
Here's something I want to ask you. Why do you think it is that it seems like wrestling fans and toy collecting goes kind of hand in hand? What do you think that is? Is it just because wrestling fans don't want to grow up and neither do toy collectors?
Pretty much. I always wondered that too. I don't get it.
Because there's a big connection there between wrestling.
There's a huge connection there, and I don't get it at all. I think it's just because the passion and love of something.
Maybe that, but also too, though, with wrestling, there's always been toys for wrestling. You know what I mean? So like that's all. There's always been new lines. So it's like I think that kind of keeps it sort of connected. So if you're a wrestling fan and a toy collector, that's probably why.
Yeah, because a lot of people who collect wrestling, they 90% of the time collect something else toy related. Because like, I'm sure you're not just collecting wrestling figures. Because there's other people who just go down the rabbit hole of whatever. Like Cardona collects Ghostbusters. And like Smart Mark collects Marvel Legends and Black Series. Cardona also collects Star Wars. Myers, I know he collects wrestlers, but I'm not sure what else he collects. I know his daughter was collecting Power Rangers because he talked about that quite often. But like Powerhouse Hobbs collects X-Men figures because he actually someone tagged me in his tweet. He was looking for that Toy Biz Cyclops. And I just found it last night, and I was like, "You still need this?" And he's like, "Yes," because he bought. At the one Toy-Hio he was at, he bought a Captain Planet and he put it in the front of his overalls. And he's like, I'm looking for that Iceman that you put in the freezer.
Yeah.
Like Danhausen collects Marvel Legends, DC stuff. He started collecting comics because he bought his first appearance of Dr. Doom from Greg from All American for a lot of money.
I'm sure.
Like a lot of money. And I was just like, oh boy. I heard how much. I'm like, whoo.
Yeah, none of my comics are worth squat. I've got a zillion of them, but they're all from this era of
the 90s.
All from the 90s era, basically. And I think I have Spawn #1. I think it's the only one. But if I want to sell it for anything, I got to get it graded, which is, I think it's only worth. It's not. I think it's worth much more than $50. So it's like, yeah, all right.
It's. I got some graded comics. I'm thinking about getting rid of them. I don't know. I teeter on it. Like, do I want to sell them? Do I not want to sell them? Because my main thing is X-Men. I love X-Men, so I try to get like the first appearances and key issues of X-Men. So like I have first Gambit, first Bishop, first Jubilee, first Sauron. I don't think I have first Apocalypse because I can never find one that's like in nice shape. I think I have the first Archangel, but I have a couple others that aren't like. X-Men's always been sentimental to me because growing up and watching the X-Men TV series and just...
Yeah, I was big into X-Men too, and yeah, the cartoon series got me into all those comics and stuff. So yeah, I collected a bunch of X-Men then, the early 90s.
That's what I did, and I was reading them like crazy. So X-Men's kind of my... So I'm like, I have some Spider-Man ones, crap like that, but I'm probably gonna sell them because I'm like, I could use that money towards something else.
You know what comic I got way into was... Remember Groo the Wanderer?
Never even heard of it.
Never heard of Groo?
No.
So Sergio Aragonés, the dude that is the Mad Magazine comic, that was his comic like forever. So it's about this dim-witted, basically the guy that wandered around with swords and he would kill whole armies or whatever. But it was all cartoony, you know what I mean? The whole thing.
Yeah.
But I got way into that. So I have a bunch of early ones of those, whatever. I remember I went down the rabbit hole when I was probably 12 or 13, and I went and bought all these like Groo #1 and other stuff, whatever. I was looking up, I'm like, oh, a couple of these are actually worth something now. But yeah, I was way into that too. And I'm surprised that never got toys either because it was real cartoony. Had like a little dog that was with them and stuff. And they did, although I did see this one thing, I found an ad. Speaking of, there was in one of them, they did a limited edition Groo statue, right? So he was like way into eating cheese dip. So it's him like in cheese dip with the dog. And it's this porcelain figure, and it's going for like $600 now. Like they only did, so I guess, and I was looking at the ad, I think they only did like maybe 500 of them total.
Oh wow!
So there's like back then, and they never did more of them, whatever. But I was like, I was like, let me just, I was like, I'd love to have this figure. I'm like, I'm not spending $600 on a porcelain Groo statue.
That's when you ask for it for Christmas. You put it on your list.
Oh yeah. I'm always like, why am I buying this for you? Like the hell.
The one thing that surprised me with toys, actually, and this is where I'll end it was shocked me when they came into the shop one day because I never knew they had toys. But I always knew it was like a popular series, but I didn't know anyone who actually read it. I just knew it was popular. Bone.
Oh, I remember Bone. I had some of those too. I remember those were like...
Yeah, but they had toys, and I didn't know that. And some of them go for decent money.
Well, the comics, I remember back then, if you had like the early ones, like those were like worth a lot of money because they didn't print a ton of them.
Yeah.
I mean, like I got into that. Like I remember buying the graphic novel, but where it would stick all the issues together and stuff, and like to read it. But I never had any like the original ones because you would see them and they were worth crazy money back then because it got real popular and there was only so many of the first editions. Whatever.
Yeah, and so many people. It was like I don't know why I remember that comic being so popular, and I had no clue what it was. And I saw it for like the first time. I'm like, what? Why is everyone going crazy over this like Casper looking big nose thing?
Do you remember Milk and Cheese?
Never even heard of Milk and Cheese.
Milk and Cheese were, so yeah, it was a carton of milk and a hunk of cheese that went around like killing people, and they did like they swore like they were foul mouth, whatever else like that too. Like that was real popular for a minute too. And I remember those comics were. I don't think those comics are worth anything anymore. I think it tanked, but it was one of those like I don't know, artificially inflated comics, whatever. But I remember being a kid and being like, yeah, they would get drunk and go around and kill people and stuff. It was like it was a totally warped comic.
Can't wait till we get the messages now about people going up. Finding Milk and Cheese comics are now going up in price because you mentioned Milk and Cheese.
Right. Yeah.
So there's so many comics I did not even know about.
I was into some weird ones toward the end of my collecting where it was like I was just buying random weird indie comics like from those like catalogs you get like, oh, let's try this or see this. Like most of them were like independent stuff and none of them are worth anything, whatever. I look at them, it's worth anything? No.
Yeah, just wait.
$2.
Someone has to die or they have to make a movie of it.
Right.
But that's going to be it for us today. Like I said earlier, Toy Howard returns February 8th. Dan Housen, Luchasaurus, Julia Hart, Harley Cameron. Tickets are on sale now on Eventbrite. Make sure to go support Time Capsule Toys, Monsters in the Toy Box. BJ is going to be playing with Local H.
January 30th at Jurgles in Warrendale, PA. So hit us up for tickets if you need them.
There you go. Go see Turbo Lovers with Local H, a great 90s band.
Yeah.
2 back-to-back phenomenal albums.
Mm-hmm. They're sort of one of those unsung bands that were
amazing in the 90s.
From that era.
Love them. Love them. Are we going to be back here next week?
I think so.
Okay. Well, BJ goes to Florida more times than I change my shirt. So
I wish I was there now still.
So we will see you all next week. Thank you for tuning in and checking us out. And make sure to check out all the other videos and podcasts at Young Sound Studios. Peace. What is up, everyone? Rick and